Last time on Out Chasing Stars, we enjoyed a brief stopover in Recife, Brazil, arriving just in time for the last day of Carnival. In perhaps one of our coolest adventures ever, our friend Hans took us with him as he performed 2 maneuvers as a port pilot, taking one ship out to sea and bringing another one into port. It wasn't all fun though, as we had to do some pretty serious rigging and sail work to get Starry Horizons back into seaworthy condition. Once that was all done, we fueled up and set to sea for the last long passage of our circumnavigation. We look like we're underway again.
We are. So we were able to get fuel at the other yacht club, Recife Yacht Club. And now we are just exiting the entrance to Recife.
Which means it's passage time, huh?
It is passage time.
Yeah.
We are ready to go.
2 weeks, I think, roughly 2,100 miles-ish.
2 weeks, yes. And, you know, there's this whole thing about the coronavirus going on right now.
Yeah, this will all be way in the past by the time this video goes online, but...
We're in self-imposed isolation for 2 weeks.
Self-quarantining, perhaps?
Self-quarantined.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a bad place to be right now, I guess.
Hey, if you gotta sail 2,000 nautical miles, then, well, you know, might as well do it when there's an outbreak.
All right, well, let's do this thing. We've survived our first night at sea, so I think it's time for a quick little situation update and passage planning talk. It's a little squally out here. The radar is showing some pretty solid red marks. Got a lot of clouds around us. Rain hitting off and on all night long, so we've had one reef in the main that's been kind of keeping it easy. We can just reef and unreef the Genoa as needed. We've still been sailing pretty fast, so I'm quite okay with that. That's all good. Now, passage planning. This is going to be a bit of a long one, our longest one crossing the Atlantic most likely. I'm kind of counting on probably 2,100 miles in about 2 weeks at sea. We are going to not go exactly the direct route because the direct route would take us a little close off the coast of Venezuela. Don't really want to be close to the coast of Venezuela. So we're going to go pretty far out at sea and try to come almost directly westbound into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It probably will add about 100 miles or so to our trip, but I think that's a fair trade-off to make. Another, 2/3 of a day-ish or so in order to stay far enough offshore. It's a deal I'm willing to make. Getting off to a fast start felt great, but we were rapidly approaching the part of the passage I was most worried about, and conditions were changing quickly. We are definitely in the doldrums now. It has been raining constantly for about the last 32 hours. It has finally stopped. The boat is beginning to dry out, which is nice, but the wind is gone. We had been sailing as best as we possibly could, all the way down to true wind speeds of like 6-7 knots. We were sailing at around like 3-ish knots. And then the wind has really just died. We've now got 2, 3, 4 knots of true wind speed. The wind is just coming from every which way. Forecasts were for anywhere between 45 degrees true wind angle and 77 true wind angle. We've seen 220 degrees true wind angle. That meant very, very deep downwind, and that kind of light air just not working super well. We've got the port engine is on. Mainsail's still up, trying to motor sail as best we can, but it's still just very light. And we're very carefully watching our fuel consumption and engine hours to make sure that we've got enough to get through the doldrums. Right now, according to the forecast, we've got about 425 miles to go until we should start seeing some trade winds. That's going to be cutting it a little closer than I'd like, so we'll likely sail as maybe the wind pops up, some of these squalls roll through, but we're moving. This is exactly the sort of scenario that prompted us to install the hydro generator back in Cape Town. Now, if we had to use a lot of diesel to motor our way through the doldrums, then having the hydro generator would mean we could really limit how much diesel would be needed to keep our batteries charged up once we could get back to sailing. On most passages, keeping the batteries charged up is the largest portion of our diesel consumption. I was still nervous about the whole thing though, so I would take any opportunity to shut the engines off that we could get. It is raining again, but that's okay because this squall brought a little bit of wind and from a better direction. It's now blowing a wild and crazy 7, 8, 9 knots, and the wind is now coming from a much more beneficial direction, true wind angle of about 100 degrees. That means we can get on a nice reach, get the apparent wind speed up, so the apparent wind speed is like 8, 9, 10. That means we're sailing 4.5 to 5 knots, and that means we can turn the engine off, save that diesel. We are still sailing in the Doldrums. Not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little proud about that. Starry Horizons is working hard for us. We did manage to get the Screecher up last night at our 2 a.m. shift change, so that has been helping as we've got the light winds. Now, are we sailing the right way? Not quite. We're actually sailing a little bit northeast right now. We definitely want to be going to the northwest, but the winds are so light that we kind of have to just take what they're giving us, and we want to keep the wind beam or higher to keep our apparent wind speed up. As long as we're making our way north, we're gonna find those trade winds, and then once we get to those, we can turn a little bit more in our direction, and if we make our way far enough north before we find them, then when we turn, hopefully we'll have the wind aft of the beam, because those trade winds will be a bit higher than now, the waves will be kicking up, be a little bit more comfortable ride to be going downish wind for the last leg rather than upwind. Always nice to wake up and have a little bit of company out here. Had to actually call that guy on the radio though, because he was coming pretty close to us. Turns out he's going to Houston, so we told him to wave hello to our hometown for us. It's always fun to look up another ship's ETA on AIS and figure out where they're going. Although it really hits home just how slow we go when we can see the big ship is scheduled to arrive all the way in Houston about the time we'd just barely be making it to the Caribbean. We'd soon get another lesson in speed, and this time they didn't bother to hide the fact they were showing off. Look at all of these dolphins. Oh my goodness. Holy cow, that is so many. You can hear them squeaking too. Oh yeah, he's spinning. I have to admit, I am absolutely astonished at how well we've been sailing so far. The Doldrums, they're kind of this big unknown. You never know how much wind you're going to have, what direction it's going to come from, and how bad the squalls are going to be. So the fact that we've only had to motor, I think, about 13 hours so far is amazing to me. Granted, we have been sailing slow, 4, 5, 6 knots, even down to 3 sometimes, but the wind has been light. I don't think we've seen consistent winds above 12 or 13 at all, except for when squalls roll through. Then it has bumped up to like 24, 25, and 26. But the combination of the right wind speed, the right wind angle means that we've been able to sail, and that's taken a big concern off of how much diesel we're gonna have left once we get out of the Doldrums. I think we're gonna be okay. Running out of diesel on the passage to Seychelles had really scarred me, so being able to cross diesel off the list of things to worry about was a huge victory. We are about to cross the equator for the 4th and final time on this circumnavigation. It's a pretty big moment, kind of hard to believe that we were getting back to the northern hemisphere. Unfortunately, this time we're getting there at a slightly inconvenient time. We are about 10 miles away. It is almost 5 o'clock in the morning, which means that we're smack dab in the middle of Amy's night shift and sleeping shift, obviously. But we did discuss, and she has agreed that I can wake her up, which I feel a little bad about ruining sleep, but 4th and final time crossing the equator, worth getting up for. So we're going to go ahead and celebrate, and she probably will go back to sleep, is my guess, and then when she wakes up again, perhaps we'll do a little extra special celebration, a little pancake breakfast. Feels like an appropriate way to honor Neptune. Hey, you're awake just in time.
Just in time.
Just in time. We're close to the equator.
Our 4th and final equator crossing.
Well, of this journey,
of this
at least.
circumnavigation.
Yeah.
Great. Everybody's gonna be like, oh my god.
What's going on? Well, sit down. Join me. Let's count down. We almost forgot something vitally important, didn't we?
Yeah. Whew. We
Just
almost
in
forgot
time.
the libations. This one's yours.
This one's mine. Okay.
The smaller one.
That's appreciated. Come on up.
You're on watch.
Fair point. That equator's getting pretty close.
It is. Counting down.
Almost there.
Almost there.
Getting close, getting close, getting close, getting close, getting close. Getting closer, getting closer, getting closer.
Ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey!
There's the equator again. Yay!
Yay!
4th time.
4th equator crossing. Wow.
Neptune, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you watching out over us all these miles.
Yeah. That Southern Ocean there was pretty tough. Not the Southern Ocean. The Southern Hemisphere was pretty tough for a little while there.
Yeah.
But I can't believe how close we are to, like, the end.
Yeah. St. Vincent, where we're heading, is less than 2,000 miles away now. And after that is like 35 miles up to St. Lucia, where we're going to cross our wake. And in terms of the total number of miles sailed, that's like nothing.
Yeah. It's crazy. But hey, we're sailing really well right now.
Yeah, Starry Horizons was like, I'm ready to get back to that northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
No more of this southern stuff for me.
Got the screecher out, kicking butt, 7-8 knots. And then, now, we're going to have a special breakfast.
Special celebration, I tell ya.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna make some pancakes.
Deep frickin' delicious. Chef needs more wine, huh?
Privilege of being the galley master.
That's fair. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about these pancakes?
I am making what we call banda pancakes because we had them in Banda for the first time.
Indonesia. Yeah.
And people tell me the ones in Bali are the same, but I don't believe that because we had pancakes in Bali and they weren't the same. These are just milk, flour, and sweetened condensed milk.
So extra delicious.
They're kind of like thicker, spongier than regular American pancakes. And serving that with a nice slather of homemade guava butter.
That we got from Brazil.
Yes, our Brazilian guavas and our recipe from our friend. So
this sounds like a very appropriate crossing the equator celebration.
And a little French wine.
Well, of course. French boat, gotta have French wine.
It's gonna be delicious.
We've certainly picked up quite a few delicious recipes on our travels, but Banda pancakes are among our favorites. Amy is quite skilled at the preparation, which wouldn't be complete without a little extra flair. Nicely done! The little confident head nod, I love it. Pancakes all done?
They smell really good.
Oh, yay. Bring that on in here. Num, num, num. Needs a little extra guava butter. That's not quite enough on there.
Well, it's gotta be, just the right amount.
Well, of course.
It's gotta be very guavalicious.
Love it, making up your own words. Wonderful. Guavalicious, added to the Amy Dictionary.
Yes. Alrighty.
Yummy noises time?
Yummy noises time. Where's smell-o-vision when you need it?
Pretty damn good?
Pretty damn good.
What a way to celebrate an equator crossing, huh?
Can't believe it.
Northern Hemisphere. Wowza! The pancakes truly were a special treat, but I had one more surprise in store for the Admiral in order to celebrate this milestone. Oh good, the annoyed reading face, huh?
I'm not annoyed.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah. I'm not annoyed because we have air conditioning on.
That's a super reason to celebrate, isn't it?
We need to run the water maker so we get some air conditioning today, which is very nice.
Yeah, I'm occasionally a little hesitant about running it at sea, but it's pretty calm today. We crossed the equator. A little extra worth celebrating, I think.
Yeah, not too shabby. So, while David was napping, I got to read and chill out in the AC.
Well, it's about time for your afternoon nap, and
Since somebody woke me up early so we could cross the equator.
yes, I so apologize for making the unilateral decision for coming down and waking you up so that we could cross the equator together.
I was going to say, are you apologizing for following directions? Because
Yes.
that was the directive.
Something along those lines. It's definitely my fault. Well, let's go get that aircon on down there and you can get a nap in.
Nappy time.
Making really good progress north, almost into the trade winds. But this morning is going to be a reminder we're not quite there yet. Still got some good squalls coming at us, and the wind has definitely started shifting around to the northeast, which is generally good. I would like to make a bit more north before we actually start turning towards St. Vincent, just because hopefully that'll give us a slightly more comfortable angle for the remainder of our trip, because those trade winds, when they do really fill in, are going to be much stronger than what we're seeing now. I should add that we have rolled in the screecher with all these squalls coming through. I never know. Sometimes the wind dies completely, sometimes it shoots up to 20 plus knots, so it's just a little bit better for my comfort of mind to have the screecher rolled in. Plus, with the wind shifting around a bit more to the northeast, the Genoa lets us point a bit higher. We go a bit slower as a result, but we are continuing to head towards the waypoint that I want, and that's an okay trade-off for now. At this point in the passage, I was getting a little tired of all the rain, so I tried to cheer myself up by getting a bit musical. Second verse, here comes more rain, doo-doo-doo-doo. Third verse, never-ending rain, doo-doo-doo-doo. Once the rain finally passed, I had some time to complete my morning checks of Starry Horizons, and found something concerning. We have a bit of a problem. Unfortunately, as I was doing my morning rounds this morning, I noticed that some of those set screws in the extrusions for our furler are backing themselves out. Now, these are not the ones that I had fixed and replaced while we were in Brazil. These are ones that, when I had tested them, still were locked tight. So I think all the jostling around of everything as we're trying to get stuff back up might have knocked them loose, and now that we're all sailing, vibrations cause them to come out. But we don't want to let them all the way out. So a squall just passed, the winds have died. We're going to go ahead and try and send me up. And I've got some blue Loctite here that we're going to go ahead and put on the set screws, try to tighten them back in, and really keep our fingers crossed that that's the last problem with the furler. This footage doesn't do the experience justice, but trust me when I say, it really sucked. The winds were too high to easily drop the Genoa, and we were worried that furling the sail or heaving to in order to drop the main might induce enough vibrations that we could lose a set screw completely. We went as far downwind as we could, and while seas were fairly calm, they were still big enough to constantly rock the boat. To stabilize myself, I had one free hand and a leg wrapped around the forestay, while the boat was jerking from side to side. I managed to get one screw tightened, but when I lost my grip and was sent banging into the mast, we had to change tactics.
How do you feel, babe?
Yes. I don't normally, I try not to swear on camera, but that really sucked. Probably the worst job we've ever done on the boat, which includes having to go up the mast in the middle of the Pacific. It just really, there's nothing easy to grab onto, so the problem we were really having was I was trying to keep the main up so that we could keep some speed up as we were going downwind, but with the main up, we couldn't get downwind enough that the waves would get off of the beam. So the boat was just banging around, and so that wasn't working. Amy had the bright idea that we dropped the main, we were able to get the Genoa out a little bit deeper, and we went a little bit deeper downwind. And
155 downwind.
And that helped us get a little bit more down the wave, so the boat wasn't just banging back and forth side to side. But that still was just absolutely no fun. I'm bruised.
Very sweaty.
All under the shorts and shirt. Sweaty. The adrenaline was definitely flowing. I needed a little peanut butter cup to try to recover. And I'm going to take a nap now because I'm done with that for now.
You've earned it.
Ooh.
Even though it's almost my nap time, I will let you override.
Yes, much appreciated. Thank you. It turned out we chose wisely to get the project done immediately, as the squalls and the doldrums weren't done with us yet. The weather forecast is showing that we should be firmly in the trade winds tomorrow, but we got one last squall system to get through, and this is a pretty damn big one. The entire sky in front of us is a dark gray. The wind has picked up. The waves have definitely picked up. It is last little gasp, I guess, but hopefully tomorrow things will kind of settle down a little bit. new day dawns. Well, there are more clouds on the horizons than I would like to see. At least the radar is not showing any squalls around us, so that's good news. And I do believe that we are finally and firmly in the trade winds. Filled in very early hours this morning, and we are kind of turning into rocket ship mode. You know, I'm very impressed with the way we sailed through the Doldrums. We used way less diesel and motoring than I thought we would, but now we are smack dab in Starry Horizons sweet spot. We've got the wind vane sets at 90 degrees, we got the screecher out, the apparent wind speed is hovering just about at 15, and that's when we can move and groove. I had thought that getting through the Doldrums was going to be the hardest part of this passage, but with the coronavirus waiting in the wings, things would soon get a lot more complicated. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out our first passage video up to the Caribbean. I gotta say I was pretty impressed with Starry Horizons and how she sailed through the Doldrums. That was, I mentioned it, it was a big worry of mine, so our girl was looking out for us, was much appreciated. Now, you guys had better come back next week, because I think something pretty momentous is about to happen. Next week, we're gonna cross our wake, and I don't think any YouTube channel has uploaded consistent videos documenting an entire circumnavigation. So we're gonna be the first. So you guys better come back next week and check that out and celebrate with us. So it's gonna be a good one. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching.